everybody and welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video I'm going to be doing a first impressions video on the new NYX Ultimate Shadow Palette. Now I got it in the shade Warm Neutrals because I felt like this was the palette that I was going to get the most use out of. I definitely feel like it is a really autumnal palette because it's got some really nice kind of burgundy kind of dark warm shades in there, which personally I absolutely love, and it's also got some really nice shimmery shades for the lid. As you can see, it's got a really good mix of shimmery and matte shades, so I'm really excited to give this palette a go and tell you guys what I think, because I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. So the palette is retail for £16, which I think is really good because you get 16 eyeshadows, which means it's about £1 an eyeshadow, which personally I think is really good because Makeup Geek eyeshadows are about the same quality and they're about £6 each, so obviously they're a lot more expensive, and also this obviously comes in a palette, so really happy with how much product you get for your money. I'm not gonna lie, I did think the palette was gonna be bigger than this, and I think it's just because on the photos it does look bigger than this, but anyway, the palette itself is a really good size. I think it's really good for travel as well. So let's get straight on to swatching these shadows. So the first shade is more of like a skin tone shade, and this will be a really good colour for setting your primer on your eyelids before you start any other eyeshadow colours, just to make sure they don't go patchy. And this is also the same for the third shade in the palette, although it's just got a slightly more pink undertone. But again, these are two really good shades for setting your base. Next we have a really shimmery white shade, which I really love. I think it would be perfect for the inner corner or also the brow bone as well. I think it could work really well for that. And then we also have a kind of golden shade. It's not too bright either, this one. It's kind of like a muted golden shade, which personally I really like because sometimes gold can be a bit too much. Next we have two really good transition shades for the crease. One looks a bit like Latte from Makeup Geek and it's got more of like a pink mauvey undertone, and the next one is more of like a camel colour, but I feel like these could be really good transition shades. Next we have a really nice pretty pink shimmery shade, which I think could be really nice for the lid. Next we have this brown shade, which is slightly darker than the rest of them so far, which I think could work really well for deepening up the crease. Next we have a golden shade. Again, this is slightly more of like a bronzy golden shade, I would say, just slightly darker than the last one, but this is such a gorgeous shade again for the lid. I feel like shimmers work really well on the lid. Next we have a kind of burgundy shade. This is very similar to Bitten by Makeup Geek, and it's such a gorgeous shade. I really do like these shades in the crease. Next we have a pinky coppery colour, which could be really nice for the lid because it's quite like a nice shimmery shade. Next we have what I would call a brick colour, so it's kind of like a burnt red. I really love this colour. I feel this could also work really well in the crease. Next we have a darker shimmery shade, which is really nice that they've thrown in a darker shimmery shade because a lot of the time you don't really have many of those, and it's just like a gorgeous muted brown, which I really love. Next we also have another kind of transition shade, maybe a slightly darker transition shade, but this is kind of like a in between a camel colour and a brick colour, I would say, but again another short gorgeous shade. And then we also have another bronzy shade, and this is just slightly more of like a cool toned golden shade, which I absolutely love. And then finally you have a matte brown, a really dark matte brown edging on grey actually, which will be really nice for deepening up the crease and getting that really nice smoky eye. So as you can see, all the colours in the palette are absolutely gorgeous. Now let's get on to the tutorial and see how I created this makeup look. First I'm taking this shade through the crease, and this is going to be my transition colour. And so far this shade is actually really pigmented. I didn't know whether it would show up much on the eye, but it actually is working really well as a transition colour. Next I'm taking this slightly darker brown shade and just running that slightly tighter through my crease. And I'm just slowly building up the amount that I'm applying to my eye at a time, just so that it looks as seamless as possible. And these shadows are blending so nicely, and the pigmentation of them is really good as well. So the shade I'm using now is a really kind of nice dark burgundy shade, and I'm just running this through the crease with a slightly more dense brush, and then I'm really going back in with my fluffy brush in a minute to help blend it out. But that has blended out so nicely. I'm going to be going in with a more kind of dense fluffy brush and just applying that same shade and just running these through the crease, and then again blending them out with a big fluffy brush. So for the lid, I'm not too sure what to do, so I'm just going to apply this really nice purpley pinky shade to the lid, and I'm going to use this as kind of like my highlight shade on the lid. So I'd definitely say that the matte shades are slightly more pigmented than the shimmery shades, just because this isn't showing up too well on my eye at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and apply it with my finger instead. So as you can see, like a lot of eyeshadows, it does actually look a lot more pigmented when you apply it with your finger. So I'm just going to be going in with this really pretty gold shade and applying this to the inner corner of my eye. So for the lower lash line, I'm using the exact same shades that I used earlier. Firstly, going in with that really neutral transition shade, and then going in with that slightly darker brown shade, and then finally with that burgundy shade. And then finally applying that really nice white shimmery shade into the inner corner. So I'm just going to do the eyeshadow on the other eye, apply some mascara, and then I will be back. Overall, I'm so happy with these eyeshadows. I think they're amazing quality. I think you also get a lot of product for your money as well. I would 100% recommend this palette, especially if you like autumny shades. But yeah, definitely one to put on your Christmas list if you're like me and you love colours like this. So yeah, really happy with this palette. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a big thumbs up if you did. It really would mean the world. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in my next video.